Hello everyone, welcome back to the Chess Journey to National Master. This episode I'll be starting to cover Torneio Nacional de Honra 2024. This was the last tournament of the year for me of 2024, and it was very important because last year, if you remember, I ended up winning this tournament in the final round and I wanted to defend my title. I'm gonna show here the starting rank of the tournament. So this year, as you can see, it was way harder. I was in position number 6 or 7, I'm not sure, but you'll be able to see in terms of the elo, starting elo. And yeah, it was going to be way more difficult this time around, but I was playing better and I felt like I had chances due to my recent performances. So let's see. The first game I got paired up against Diogo Martins, and I had the black pieces. I had a lot of time to prepare because this first round uh, was like posted the pairings like 1 week before the tournament. And when you have so much time to prepare, you don't even know what you want to do. I ended up my opponent went e4, which I expected. I went e5, knight f3, and knight f6. And here, yeah, I played the Petrov because I saw some interesting ideas with some more unpopular and uncommon lines, but my opponent dodged that prep, which was very smart. He played knight c3. Now after knight c6, we are on a um, a four knights game, and I still had some prep here, not as much as the Petrov, but I had something prepared here. My opponent here surprises me with this move bishop c4, which is known to be an inferior move to others like bishop b5 or even d4. This bishop c4 allows me to take on e4 with this very well-known tactic that after knight takes on e4 I can push d5 and I regain the piece. And we get this position here after bishop d6. This was all I had in this position in terms of preparation. And yeah, here just black has a comfortable game, and I never looked into this that much, and I don't think I even in training games got this position once actually on my like rapid training games online. So yeah, here my opponent castled, I castled as well, and now he played bishop takes on c6, so he gives me the bishop pair, but he damages my structure here, and he plays rook e1, and I think here I had the first thing of the game, because until now it was pretty much all very forced. And here I decided to go for queen f6, and this move is not that great, but my idea was an aggressive one. I wanted to try to pressure his king side with my bishop pair and my queen as well, but it turns out that chess is not that straightforward, and you can't just bring the queen to the king side and give check. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Here here better would be just to put the rook on e8 and just defend this pawn, because he has a threat of attacking the pawn, so let's just defend the pawn and then we'll see. But I decided to bring the queen to f6. He plays d3 here. I thought that he wanted to play bishop g5, so I played h6, and now my opponent plays bishop d2. I didn't really understand this move. I decided to go bishop g4 to put pressure on the knight, and then my opponent plays h3, and this got me thinking. So my opponent is allowing me to damage his structure back, but wait a second, like my idea was not to take on f3. Actually, my idea was to bring the bishop back, but all of a sudden I started calculating and I saw, whoa, this bishop d2 move is intending bishop c3, which I completely missed this idea, attacking the pawn, and it's not so easy to defend, because let's say after bishop h5, what I calculated was after g4, bishop g6, bishop c3, rook e8, and something like queen e2, I thought I'm gonna lose this pawn. It turns out that it's not so simple, because after like queen e7, my opponent can't really take here twice, because I have f6 at the end. like pinning the piece. And here I decided to take on f3, and after takes. This is just a better endgame for white, and it's very easy to understand why, because let's compare the minor pieces. And yeah, even though we both have a damage structure, my opponent has the good bishop versus the bad bishop, because all these pawns are on dark squares, my opponent's pawns are on light squares in general. So yeah, I knew that here I would have to suffer to try to hold this game, which is already bad to be in such a disadvantage so soon into the game. I wasn't happy at all about the opening outcome, but it is what it is. Here I played rook b8 and my opponent played bishop c3, f6, rook e4. So yeah, you can clearly see that I don't really have targets, and my opponent has quite a few ways to target my weaknesses. Played king f7, he doubled on the e file. I played rook b7, and now my opponent plays rook c4. I push c5. Now my bishop is a total big pawn. Literally the only function of this bishop is just to defend. It looks like a big pawn. Now my opponent plays b3, I play g5. I had to make moves. That's the problem. In this position I kind of just want to wait, because as I said, it's really hard to find an active plan for black here. So yeah, I almost just want to give my opponent all the moves and just react to whatever he's trying to do. But yeah, my opponent starts maneuvering his pieces. I play rook b4, he plays rook e4, and now I try to activate my king. And here my opponent finds this nice move, bishop c3. And now I didn't want to trade the rooks, wanted to keep the rooks on the board. But now after rook b7, I knew that I was gonna allow f4, but I thought, okay, I mean, this might be double-edged, and it's not so simple, because after takes, rook takes, at least now I have some open file for counterplay. But yeah, I played c6 here. I don't really understand. I understand this move. c6, my idea was to activate the rook. He replays rook g4. I play king f7, trying to defend the infiltration on the 7th rank. He plays king f1. Okay, now I probably should try to trade a rook, because if he doubles on the g file for free, I might be losing on the spot. So I trade a pair of rooks. Now I play f5, rook h4, king g6, trying to activate my king. That was the whole plan in this game. Was, I mean, at least if I can't activate the bishop, if I can't activate the rook, at least I'm gonna fight with my king. So let's go. He plays rook a4 here. I play bishop b8. I wanted to protect this pawn to activate my rook. He plays bishop d2, f4, king g2, king f5, and now honestly I wasn't that upset anymore, because we were starting to get very low on the clock, and you could feel that it wasn't as simple as it was before, because now my king is very active, and I wasn't sure if my opponent was still winning or not, because I have a lot of counterplay, and with low time on the clock everything can happen. 85% of you guys that watch my videos aren't subscribed. If you enjoyed the videos, I would highly appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Let's get back into the video. So here he plays king f3. I finally activate my rook with rook g7, rook a6, attacking on c6. I defend, and now my opponent plays this move, rook a5. So he's really just pressuring everything. But here I decided to say, whatever, you can take my pawn on c5. I will try to still activate my king. He takes on c5, so now he's up a pawn. King h4, bishop c3, and now I defend the pawn on e5. And he activates his king, and I take on h3. And I was very happy about this position, because I really thought that, now I have a passed pawn. Like, I have a passed pawn, and this pawn can easily just run up the board. My king is well placed to support the pawn push, so like, whoa, like, this was starting to be like just a blitz game with us below like 5 minutes or even below 4 minutes, and it was just like, trying to complicate the position as much as possible. He played king f5 here, I played rook e8, he took on c6, I played h5, he played f3, I played rook g8, trying to cut the king and activate my rook along the open g file. He took on e5, I didn't care. He is up to pawns, but all of a sudden my pawn, like, I have so much counterplay because my king is so active, my pawns are so dangerous here, and yeah, my pieces are well placed. Here he played d4, which is actually a losing move. Here I missed a chance, I played h4, which misses the chance. Here the chance would be the simple rook h8, putting the rook behind the passed pawn and just pushing, and my opponent can't do anything to stop it. He can try to bring the rook back, but this is not enough. I can just push and eventually I'll kick the rook, and yeah, it's just too much, I think, because I'm gonna be pushing the 2 pawns, and this pawn is still very far away from promotion. So yeah, I missed this rook h8 silent killer move, and I just pushed the pawn, which now allows my opponent to find this very natural move, rook h6, putting his rook behind the passed pawn. Here he plays d4, I push on h2, and I thought, like, damn, like, I'm gonna promote, and I'm gonna be up a rook. But here actually my opponent missed the chance to be winning, because after c4 he's winning. Eventually he'll sack the rook for the pawn, and these pawns are way too strong, and yeah, this pawn takes way too much time to promote. We both missed a lot of stuff, but it was very hard with such pressure on the first round and so low time on the clock. We were really low on time, like almost just playing on the increment. So after h2 my opponent plays rook h2, which is the worst order of the moves, because now I find this very nice move that kind of almost just kills the game, which is rook e8 check. And the problem now is that the idea for my opponent was that after like rook h2, if I just take here, my opponent can take on f4 and he's just winning. This is just too strong. These pawns are way too strong. Even though I'm up a rook, like, just impossible to hold this, and we can't even win, because no way. But here my opponent missed that I have this rook e8 check intermediate move, and this is very important because now I am trying to dislodge this king from this f4 pawn, and if my opponent moves up the board I can take the rook, and now this pawn is safe. So I thought, okay, we're just gonna repeat. He's just gonna go king f5, I'm gonna check on f8, and he's gonna go back to e5, and we're gonna get a draw, which for me would be a huge result, considering how the game started after the opening. But here my opponent plays king e6, and I'm like in shock. Like, I'm in complete shock. How is this possible? He's playing for a win and he's giving me a rook, and I just didn't know how to react. I just took the rook. He played c4, king g3, king c5, and now I play rook h8, which is a bad move. Like, this was complete madness. I started seeing the pawns roll down the board. I couldn't calculate. I was just too nervous. I couldn't just stop to do a simple calculation, because also just playing with like 1 minute on the clock and calculating this, I would need like at least like give me 4 minutes, 5 minutes to make sure that I calculate to the end of the promotion. But yeah, I played this rook h8. My idea was just to not get it with tempo after like king e7. Here my opponent played c6. I took on f3. He played d6, and here I only have one move to draw. I'm no longer winning after moving the rook. And here I missed it. I just started giving checks out of panic, and I thought, okay, I just promote the pawn, but now I'm actually down a very crucial tempo, and he promotes first. This is the problem. He promotes first, and now we trade. Um, we both make a queen here, and yeah, this is just winning for white with the correct technique. But let's just go back a little bit to try to understand what was the winning idea and that I missed. After king f3, I was very worried about king e7, but actually, because I thought that I had to move my rook to h8, and then he starts rolling down the pawns, which it's similar to what happened, but I am not losing a tempo because I waited for king e7. But yeah, here the funny thing is that after king takes on f3, king e7, I don't even have to worry about the rook. I can actually just go king e4, and the point is that if my opponent takes the rook, I take the pawn. And this, I don't even have to say anything about this. So yeah, if my opponent decides to push the pawns, okay. Oh, it's funny, I thought that this would be winning, but actually this is not so clear now. Wow, this is not so clear. So yeah, this is not as simple as I thought. Wow, this is not so clear. Wow, this is not so clear actually. Wow. I thought this would be just winning, but now I have to go rook h8. So yeah, it's way more complicated than I thought. d7, I can just push. And yeah, my opponent can't just promote now because I just sacked the rook, so he has to push this pawn. And yeah, here when he promotes, I don't have to take the queen. I can just give a check and try to checkmate him. But yeah, it's complicated to see all these details with such low time on the clock. Pawn showed great technique to win this queen endgame. Just kept giving me checks. He gained a lot of time on the clock, and now here he took the pawn with the king, which is very important. And now with two passed pawns, I mean, it's really hard to find a perpetual here, and my opponent finds a very nice setup where there's no checks, and after a6 here I resigned and I lost the first game. And what a game. It was actually a very, very exciting game to start with a loss, which is not ideal, but still we were playing a strong player and we keep moving. I hope you guys enjoyed this crazy game, and I'll see you guys next round. Bye bye.